Vampire bats have a brutal problem. Most animals don't. If a vampire bat doesn't find blood to drink within about 60 hours, it starves to death. Not weeks, not days really, just over 2 nights of bad luck and it's dead. And hunting isn't guaranteed either. On any given night, a bat has a real chance of coming back to the roost completely empty, even after hours of searching. Some studies suggest a healthy adult bat can still fail to feed on roughly 1 out of every 10 nights, purely due to bad luck, weather, or prey avoiding them. So here's what should happen, evolutionarily speaking. Every bat should hoard whatever blood it gets, look out for itself, and let the unlucky ones starve. That's how a lot of survival stories go. Brutal and simple. Every animal for itself.
That's not what happens. When a vampire bat comes back to the roost after a successful hunt and it notices a roost mate who came back empty, it will regurgitate a portion of its own blood meal and feed it mouth to the bat that failed. No relation required. Not even always a close friend. Sometimes it's a bat it barely interacts with day to day. It's giving away a resource that took real risk to get. Flying out into the dark, finding prey, avoiding predators, to save an animal that contributed nothing to that specific hunt. If you're the kind of person who didn't expect generous vampire to be a real category, hit like and subscribe, because Blorpin's got a lot more of these.
It helps to understand just how costly this gift actually is for the bat giving it. A single blood meal can take a bat's entire body weight up in liquid, and digesting it, processing it, converting it into usable energy takes time and its own metabolic cost. Giving away a portion of that meal isn't a symbolic gesture. It measurably shortens how long the donor bat can go before it needs to hunt again, meaning the giver is voluntarily moving itself closer to the same 60-hour danger zone it just watched someone else nearly fall into.
Here's where it gets genuinely calculated, though. Researchers tracked which bats fed which other bats over time, marking individuals and recording every feeding interaction across months of observation. And it wasn't random charity. Bats were far more likely to feed another bat that had fed them before, or that they'd built a long-term social bond with through grooming and roosting together. This wasn't blind kindness spread evenly across the colony. It was closer to a favor bank, one that bats seemed to actually keep track of, sometimes over periods stretching years.
Bats that never reciprocated, that took blood meals from others but never gave any back, got cut off. Over time, other bats simply stopped feeding them, even when those same bats had plenty of blood to spare. Word, in whatever form word takes among bats, social memory, proximity, repeated observation, seemed to get around, and reputations followed individual bats for the rest of their lives.
There's an even stranger detail buried in some of these studies. Researchers have run experiments where they deliberately starve a bat in a controlled setting, then reintroduce it to its colony to see who steps up. It's consistently the bats with the strongest prior social bond to the hungry one that feed it first, not necessarily the bats with the most blood to spare, and not randomly assigned roostmates. Relationship history predicted generosity better than resources did.
Here's the twist. Humans run an almost identical system. We just gave it a name that sounds far more civilized. Reciprocity. You remember who showed up for you during a hard time, and you remember who never did. You're more likely to help someone who's helped you before, or who's part of your ongoing social circle, than a total stranger with no history attached. Lending money, covering a shift, driving someone to the airport at 5 in the morning, none of it happens evenly across every person you know. It clusters heavily around people you've built a track record with. And somebody who takes and takes without ever giving back eventually gets quietly frozen out, the same way a freeloading bat does. Fewer invitations, fewer favors, fewer people picking up the phone when they need something.
Nobody has to hold a meeting about it. It just happens, gradually, the same way it happens in a colony of bats hanging upside down in a cave. You notice it in group chats where certain names quietly stop getting tagged for plans, in workplaces where certain colleagues stop getting looped into favors, in friend groups where the invitations slowly, silently thin out. No announcement, no confrontation, just a colony-wide adjustment, made one small decision at a time.
Psychologists call this reciprocal altruism, and there's a reason it evolved independently in species as different as bats and humans. It works. A group where members help each other survive short-term crises, tracked over a long enough timescale, outlasts a group where everyone only looks out for themselves. The bats that share blood aren't being noble in some abstract moral sense. They're running a system that's kept their entire colony alive for millions of years, one mouth-to-mouth favor at a time, long before anything resembling morality or ethics existed to explain why they do it.
This same logic shows up across an enormous range of species once biologists started actually looking for it. Cleaner fish that let bigger fish eat parasites off them and get spared in return. Primates that groom each other in patterns that closely track who helped whom in a recent conflict. Even some birds that seem to remember which neighbors helped defend a nest last season. Reciprocity, it turns out, isn't a rare fluke of evolution. It's one of the most common solutions nature keeps arriving at, independently, whenever survival depends on cooperation rather than pure competition.
What's especially interesting is that this system seems to require memory and individual recognition to function at all. A bat has to actually know which specific bat fed it last month, and which one never has, for the whole system to hold together. Remove that memory, and the entire cooperative structure collapses into exactly what evolutionary theory originally predicted. Every bat for itself. The kindness isn't automatic. It's tracked, remembered, and conditional, which is arguably what makes it so similar to how humans actually behave, rather than some idealized version of generosity.
Which means every time you've covered a friend's bill knowing they'd get the next one, or shown up for someone who once showed up for you, you weren't just being nice in some vague feels-good sense. You were running the exact same account-keeping instinct as a bat hanging upside down in a cave, deciding who's earned dinner tonight based on a mental ledger you're not even consciously aware you're keeping. And if you've ever felt that specific, quiet frustration toward a friend who only ever calls when they need something, never the other way around, that irritation isn't pettiness either. That's the same instinct a bat colony runs on, gradually and silently deciding who gets fed next time, and who doesn't.
There's something almost comforting in that, honestly. The instinct to keep score, to notice who shows up and who doesn't, to quietly recalibrate how generous you're willing to be with someone based on their track record. None of that is a character flaw or a sign that you're not generous enough. It's a survival system that predates language, predates money, predates the entire concept of debt as we understand it. A bat figured it out hanging upside down in a cave with a brain smaller than a grape, tracking favors across years without a single written record. We just added spreadsheets, IOUs, and slightly more elaborate excuses for why we haven't paid someone back yet. Should Lorpin cover the crocodile that uses sticks as fishing lures next? Or the octopus that seems to dream? Drop your vote in the comments. That's the Blorpin theory. Stay curious.